It is time to officially get to the end of our Nashville Sound draft only franchise on NBA 2K24. Tried to do a long-term sim in a live stream, but just the simulating of the regular seasons took a little bit too long. So this season ahead of season 9 would be the last time I would really control the transactions for the team. I really wanted this Baker guy that got taken right ahead of us, but at pick 9, we would say Carlos Ramos, a 77 overall 2 guard. And then we also had the 29th pick. We picked up Rudy Peterson, a 6'5" point guard. Can do a little bit of everything. A couple of guys that are solid. And that will be the last draft that I control of the series. And then in the last free agency period of the series, I brought back Lamont Powers for 4 years and Ernest Augustine on a 2-year plus a team option. And with that, it's time for the CPU to take over the team. End of season 9 here, and taking a look at the player stats, our starting 5 all had double-digit points per game. Nobody got above 20 though for us this year. Mullins, who was second team All-NBA, 18.5 with 12.5 and 4.5 assists. And Malachi led us with 9.3 assists. Sidney Lowry was an all-star starter, but did not make an All-NBA team. And as far as the playoffs, we did not get the number 1 seed this year for the first time in 4 seasons, I think it is now. We had 4 straight years as the number 1 seed. And it is the Washington Wizards, led by Edmund Sampson, who was in the draft back in the year before we won the championship. Some thought we should take him to help push us over the edge, which of course would have been sick, but it just wasn't an option for us. He just averaged 29 points, 6.5 rebounds, and 4.7 assists this season. A breakout campaign for him. He was insane. But it's time now to simulate through the play-in to see who we're facing. And we'll be facing off against Damian Harvey and the Philadelphia 76ers here. We will be going pretty quickly through these games, much quicker than we did in the live stream where we went through a couple of seasons, just because we have to get all the way through these players' careers today. It is a 3-2 lead over Philly so far, and Nashville advances in 6. Now we will face off against Indiana in the second round for now the 5th straight season we have met with the Pacers in the postseason. It is pretty crazy how we always seem to match up with each other. Nashville will win in 5. We will go up against either Washington or Brooklyn, whoever wins this series here. And it will be Brooklyn. I wanted to see Washington and Edmund Sampson here, but we'll settle for an Eastern Conference matchup against the Nets. So far, we have split the games, now up 2-1. Splitting once more, and a loss away from potentially ending season 9, and we are eliminated in the Eastern Conference Finals once more. So we've at least made the conference finals every single year in this long-term simulation, but can't get over the hump here. And it will be Luka on the Kings versus Jordan Hawkins on the Nets. Quite the matchup. The Nets win the first. We'll just simulate this round. The Nets are the NBA champions behind guys like James Wiseman and Jordan Hawkins. What was this team? They had nobody over 85 overall, and they just won the championship because they had 3 good centers and a bunch of good power forwards. That is wild. How did these guys win the championship over these guys? We have 4 players better than their best player. UK just does not do a good job, I think, of simulating. But it is what it is. Let's get into Season 10. Season 10, and the Sound barely made the play-in this year. Out of nowhere, we are starting not to be as good as it feels like we should be here. Here's what we're talking about on the team. Ramos, the last guy I drafted in the franchise, averaging double digits for us. Francis Mullins was first team All-NBA the first time we had that here in the franchise, so that was cool. And just not our year. We had a lot of games missed here from Pope, Lowry as well. Mullins missed a handful, but just some injuries forced us to not be good. And we also lose in the play-in. Wow. Season 10, an absolute bust, but the team's still all together for now. We'll see if we can stick together going into next year. I mean, we had Bowman injured. There you go. Maybe that was the reason we lost, but I don't know if he's that impactful to the success of this team. Simulating the playoffs here in year 10, I guess now. Let's see who wins the championship. Orlando and Washington, the Clippers and Seattle. Seattle has made it to their second finals here in the series. They'll be going against the Orlando Magic. And it'll be Seattle winning the finals. Donald Jenkins here, 21, 5, and almost 9 here as your finals MVP. So both expansion teams have won a championship within 10 seasons of being expansion teams. So I'm not even going to show you guys the stats this year because 2K did the very stupid thing in the offseason of abolishing the shot clock. Why is that even an option? A, and B, why is it an option that the owners always vote to approve? It's the dumbest thing you could possibly do. There was a game earlier this year that we lost 33-37. Why is that in the game? It's so stupid, man, but I'll reverse it in the off season. But we had a season of these dumb games, so I'm not showing you the stats. Nashville got the 4 seed here, so let's get the playoffs underway. Maybe we can finally win ourselves a championship here in this long-term sim. Well, it looks like we might not even make it out of the first round here. This team has really struggled in the long-term sim. But we do come back down 3-1 to beat Philly here. Now we've got the Orlando Magic, the Eastern Conference representatives of last year's finals. We go up on them 3-1. And we win. We're back in the Eastern Conference Finals. Something that we've been in every year except for one. Oh, whoops. I accidentally simulated the round instead of the game. And we lose in 5 to the Raptors. We can't get past the conference finals. I don't know if this team's winning another championship, unfortunately. Garrison Kane, who was the first overall pick in the year 9 draft, I believe it was, already leading the Grizzlies to finals victory. Let's get the NBA back with a shot clock, please. My goodness. Here we are back atop the rankings as we should be here. And taking a look at the stats for the year, we have 3 players all at 18 points per game. These guys have really just kind of all had very similar career arcs once we've started this long-term simulation. Francis Mullins has been the one racking up the all NBAs, although Malachi Pope made an appearance this year in that 3rd all NBA spot. So will this finally be the year that Nashville can go all the way in that 1 seed spot? So far, we're losing to the Cleveland Cavaliers. and we got eliminated in round 1 despite being at 1 seed. I'm awfully tempted to just simulate to when these guys are retiring. This team can't finish a single playoff run. My goodness. We're already out. A 1 seed loses to the 8. Rich Verney, who was the MVP this year as well. I gotta take a look at this guy. He looks absolutely insane. Grizzlies. Yeah, they got themselves a couple of monsters here in the draft lately. 6'6" point guard here, 7'2" center. They are really good. And he won conference finals MVP despite the fact that they lost. Nice. Nuggets won the championship behind Calvin Floyd. I think I'm giving us one more chance to win a championship. If we don't, I'm simulating to when these guys retire. Malachi Pope left the team this year, and that's a real bummer. I think it's official now that the team's not really together anymore. Malachi Pope being probably consensusly our second best player throughout the series, if not even number 1 by the end of it. The fact that he's gone, let's see what these guys' careers look like when they are retired. Time out before we get to the retirements here. We have an MVP in our midst. It is Francis Mullins coming out of nowhere. I don't know how this is the MVP season. If I'm being honest, this is probably one of the least impressive MVPs I've seen, but I will take it. Francis Mullins might be our best chance to actually getting into the Hall of Fame of anybody on our team. And in the same season, Malachi Pope on the Kings wins your finals MVP, so he has a 3rd championship under his belt, just didn't win it with us. First guy that I've seen retire here is Phil Bowman. I haven't checked for any of the other role players. I just noticed his name on the retirement list. He ended up playing 5 years with us. Didn't play for anyone else. Averaged 9.5 points per game in his career, 3 rebounds. Was a really good 3-point shooter. Don't know how he couldn't hold a job. That's just the way that 2K ends up stemming. But Phil Bowman, first to retire. Andre Stevens has retired here at the age of 32. He really fell off his last couple of years, but before that was always, a guy that could be counted on for somewhere in the mid-teens for his scoring, was a positive rebounder, and just an all-around good player. Averaged 13 points, 5.5 rebounds, and 2.5 assists, and was with the team for our first championship run, playing a pivotal role in the starting lineup. So congrats to Andre for a good career. Now Malachi Pope has himself an MVP, winning it with the Sacramento Kings. Only needed 22 and 11 to get it, but we have 2 Nashville Sound players winning MVP. He has been more productive since he left Nashville. I'll give him that. Probably just less competition for stats, but there you go. Ernest Augustine calls it quits. And what year are we now? 2039. We have gone through quite a bit here. Let me find him again real quick. Ernest Augustine played his last few years outside of Nashville, but was with our squad for quite a few years. 7 points, 4.5 rebounds, 1.5 assists for him, 1 stock. Good role player for us. Had a brief stint as a really good defensive starter as well. But congrats on a good career for Ernest. The year 2041, and at the age of 33, Lamont Powers is hanging it up. He played 4 years after leaving Nashville. If you ignore this 1 year where the shot clock wasn't available, he was a consistent double-digit points per game guy, but if you watch this series, it wasn't the scoring that made him special, or really his stat line in general. It was just the energy that he brought to the team. He got us out in transition. He played good defense, and really once we put him on the team, just it felt like the mentality changed, and he ended up being kind of like that missing piece for us that pushed us over the edge. Really fun player, probably the favorite to be the head coach at the beginning of our 2K25 franchise, whatever that will be. So just your stereotypical future coach type player, and really happy that we chose to end up trading into the draft to select this player. Lamont Powers, congrats on a great career. Next up on the retirement list in 2042 is Christian Davidson. He would end up playing 4 years after leaving Nashville, and his best time was definitely with our squad. 13 points per game, 4 rebounds, 3 assists. Always an electric microwave type scorer for us, and I think exceeded what I had hoped for him in his career. Didn't put him as a starter until we absolutely had to, just because I felt like his game was best suited to a 6-man role. He did start for us for a little while and had some solid seasons there. An excellent combo guard for us in his career, and congrats on a great career for Christian Davidson. It's 2044, and we get a couple of the big time retirements. Sidney Lowry, 20 years in the leagues. Did not mean, I don't want to. Can I please go back and look at him? Thank you. 20 years in the league. I don't know why he decided to play 1 year, which he played 0 minutes with Utah, rather than retiring a lifelong member of the Nashville Sound. Kind of annoying, but it is what it is. He averaged 18 points per game in his career, 5 rebounds, 4 rebounds, 4 assists, and let's see, some award history. 2-time NBA champion, 1-time Finals MVP, as an 11-time All-Star, and 7-time All-NBA player. Could be Hall of Fame. We'll see in just a minute. We got another one of our big time players, another guy who decided to play 1 year on another team. This time he actually did play a little bit, but why not just retire a member of the Nashville Sound? That's my question. I was really hoping we could get a couple of career-long Nashville Sound players, but they both betrayed us in their final season. 16 points, 10 rebounds, 4 assists per game. And for his awards, 2-time champion, 1-time MVP, 10-time All-Star, and 8-time All-NBA, including 3 times first team All-NBA. So a couple of guys that I think at least have a chance. Malachi Pope is the last guy to retire. He still hasn't retired, so we're gonna have to wait for that, I suppose. But let's get to the Hall of Fame inductees, and both Francis Mullins and Sidney Lowry are Hall of Fame members, as is Victor Wembanyama. And they both get their jerseys retired, rightfully so, with the Nashville Sound. Nice to see a couple of our franchise stars etching their name into the Hall of Fame in the end of their careers. Both excellent players and major driving forces in our championship. Let's not forget, Sidney Lowry broke the record for points per game in a playoff run in our first championship run. Just a fun little side note before we get to Malachi Pope's retirement. It should be next year because he's unsigned right now. But Pavel Bogdanovic is 40 years old and he's still 90 overall. What is this man? This is the craziest prolonged career I've ever seen. I want to see his Where are his stats? They're right here. I mean, he's been on Chicago his entire career and still kicking it at 90 overall. Impressive career for him. So here it is, the final retirement of the series. Also retiring alongside Darren Anthony and Pavel Bogdanovic, who's still 90 overall. But Malachi Pope ended up having almost as good of a career, maybe even better of a career with Sacramento than he did with us. Might get his number retired by 2 teams here in this series, but 17 points per game, 3 rebounds, 8 assists for him. Awards wise, we got 3-time NBA champion, 1-time MVP, 2-time finals MVP, 8-time All-Star, and 6-time All-NBA player, including 1 first-team All-NBA appearance. Was really just an incredible player. I think couldn't have imagined a better fit at the point guard spot for what we had and what we really needed. We were in desperate need of a point guard when we drafted him, and a big reason that we were able to have such successful playoff runs in our final 2 seasons of the series, years 5 and 6. In fact, I'd even argue he was the best player in our second playoff run when we repeated and went an undefeated run in the playoffs. Darren Anthony, another massive player in this series. We faced him a ton of time. He ends up being a 3-time MVP, so we'll see him likely be in the Hall of Fame as well. Let's go to Hall of Fame, and Malachi Pope makes it. So 3 Hall of Famers from our Nashville Sound team. Not surprised there. And Bogdanovic and Darren Anthony make the Hall of Fame alongside him. He does get his... No, he doesn't get his number retired with us? Really? The Nashville Sound do not retire his jersey. It's kind of a jerk move. You know what? I'm the owner of the Sound. We're retiring the jersey of Malachi Pope. I mean, how do we not do it? How do we not do it? He gets his jersey retired by the Kings, I suppose. I guess the Sound felt burned that he left them so early, but that's gonna be the end here of our Nashville Sound franchise, ending at a perfect 69 episodes. Hard to imagine a better ending than that. Ultimately, unable to get some championships added in our long-term sim, but ending up with 3 players in the Hall of Fame and a couple of MVPs, I think is still a pretty good way to wrap up the series. If you enjoyed this series and you haven't tuned into my new MLB The Show draft-only franchise, I would encourage it. It's been a ton of fun so far, and we'll be back with basketball when NBA 2K25 comes out. If you have any ideas for, a franchise for that game, let me know, and I'll see you then.